Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and this is my very first 2025 NFL mock draft, which is crazy. You could tell we were winning if I'm just now doing my first mock draft in February. You know me, man. I'm quick to fire those off in October when the season look hopeless, man. So, hey, man, I'm really excited to finally come with this one. And just to let you know, this is kind of blind. I haven't done as much research and film watching as I typically do because, again, I've been so wrapped up by the Commanders. I haven't watched as much college football and film and studying as much as I normally do. So this one's a pretty raw attempt here. But I'm also throwing in a free agency class as well because I don't want people looking at the mock draft and being like, well, what about this position? What about this position? So we're also going to address free agency as well. We're going to kind of breeze through that pretty quickly, explain the free agents that I signed, why, what roles they'll fill in, the positions and all of that. And then we'll get to the mock draft after that so you can have like an understanding of the team that I'm trying to build. So this is pretty much like an entire 2025 mock off season, but we're more so here, like 80% of the video is going to be centered around the mock draft. But before we dive into everything, first of all, it's February 6th, so y'all already know I have a trivia question, a fun fact to give you at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. As promised, y'all are about to start getting a lot of mock drafts, a lot of draft stuff, a lot of free agency content. I still need to do a breakdown of our biggest needs and everything like that. I have so much content on the way. I've just been super busy, and breaking news just keeps pushing videos like this further back. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you pull up to this channel every once in a while because I more than likely have another video uploaded since the last time you looked. And without further ado, let's go and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. And if you want to go straight to the mock draft, you can skip ahead to this minute and second, this point in the video that I'm pointing down to right now, because I have no idea by the time I'm done editing this. But go ahead and skip to this time if you literally want to go straight to the mock draft. And of course, again, this is a mock draft where I assume that we handle business in free agency. Like, we go through there just wrecking everything so that we can get I hope they're like, we go crazy in free agency to where we can go best player available basically in the draft to upgrade positions rather than trying to plug in holes on our roster with a bunch of rookies and expecting those guys to be able to immediately start and contribute day one. So if we go into free agency and we get starting with edge rusher number one, and just to let you know, I'm ranking these free agents because I just feel like we're not going to be able to get every single top player at every position. That's unrealistic. But let's say edge rusher wise, we get the number one edge rusher available in free agency. That would be Khalil Mack. And right now, I still feel like even at this age, he's the best edge run defender in the entire NFL, at least at worst top two. And he's still also capable of going out there and getting 12 sacks in a season, especially in Dan Quinn's defense. So, of course, the goal is Myles Garrett, but I don't want to get too crazy and predict trades yet in my first mock draft, first mock off season. But best believe my main target, my number one target in all of the off season is Myles Garrett. But if we don't end up getting Myles Garrett because the Browns are being stingy and don't want to trade him away, and they're going to go through whatever they go through with him to the point that he's probably even skipping out on games and completely doing like a hold in or whatever, let's go get Khalil Mack, the number one edge available. Then let's also go out there and get the number one tackle available in Ron Lee Stanley. Now, granted, this is a pretty ugly offensive line class for agency wise, and Ronnie Stanley is arguably the best tackle available. He has experience, first of all, blocking for a top 3 mobile quarterback with Lamar Jackson, and I feel like that really matters. I feel like that holds a lot of weight. That could be like a smooth transition, because if you try to go get a tackle that, even if he's really good, if he hasn't that experience blocking for a really mobile quarterback that's liable to take off any snap, that would be a huge adjustment period. There will be some growing pains there. So Ronnie Stanley, of course, you got to worry about his injury history, but I feel like with that, signing him in free agency, you could essentially move Brandon Coleman down to left guard, because Nick Allegretti is a solid guard. I think he's an elite backup, but like a decent starter. I prefer Nick Allegretti as like an off the bench type of guy if we need him. So you move Brandon Coleman to starting left guard. You have Ronnie Stanley as your starting left tackle. Then you draft and develop the guy that will eventually replace Andrew Wiley as your starting right tackle in 2026. But you draft them in this 2025 draft. But until Cosme is ready, go ahead and draft the guy that could potentially start for you at right tackle, while Andrew Wiley starts at right guard until Samuel Cosmi is healthy enough to play. So we already have the number 1 edge in free agency, the number 1 tackle in free agency. How about we go get the number 3 wide receiver in Amari Cooper? Because I feel like Terry McLaurin will require so much defensive attention, and Cooper will always be open in the middle of the field. The most when in doubt, Amari Cooper is open somewhere for Jaden Daniels type of guy. And he's a great wide receiver too. I don't feel like he's like a 1A, 1B situation with Terry McLaurin like Garrett Wilson or T. Higgins would be, but you got to trade for Garrett Wilson, and T. Higgins is about to get a super bag to the point that I'm not even sure if the Commanders try to compete with other teams to get him. So I feel like Amari Cooper is literally the next best thing after those guys. You could probably even throw Chris Godwin above him. I think Chris Godwin, if you can promise me he's 100% healthy in himself, I would put him above Amari Cooper as well. But I feel like Amari Cooper would be a very safe bet here to come in and consistently be open for Jaden Daniels. That's all we need. Somebody that's always open while Terry McLaurin is getting double teamed, to the point that after a while you start to focus on Amari Cooper. You better not ever leave Terry McLaurin out there one-on-one with anybody. So, hey, that would finally break a lot of the coverage things that the Eagles are doing against us with doubling Terry and daring somebody else to beat us. Amari Cooper would be that guy that they would have to dare to beat them, and he would beat them. Then cornerback-wise, I see us getting cornerback number 2. Again, I think, like, of course, Charvarius Ward is better than DJ Reed. And of course, there's the connection to Adam Peters, who helped bring Charvarius Ward over to the 49ers before he left to become our general manager. But again, there's just no way we're going to get the number 1 player at every respective position. I just doubt that that's going to happen. So we got to make sacrifices somewhere. So at receiver, we get the number 3, arguably number 4 receiver. Then we get the number 2 corner in DJ Reed. And DJ Reed was a guy that really wanted to come to the Commanders. Remember, he clearly showed through Twitter that he wanted to get traded to the Commanders before the trade deadline. Then we traded for Marshawn Lattimore. He was very sad about that. He even tweeted a crying emoji with still like 3 hours left to the trade deadline. So you knew that he was specifically talking about the fact that we traded for Marshawn Lattimore instead of him. There were three more hours left to the trade deadline nearly when he tweeted the sad emoji. So you knew it was like, it wasn't about getting traded in general. It was about not getting traded to the Washington Commanders. I'm pretty sure that guy is ready to leave that dysfunctional Jets situation. And him and Marshawn Lattimore on the outside with Mike Sanders still on the inside is actually a really crazy cornerback group right there. Again, I believe Charvarius Ward is better, but DJ Reed is not a bad number 2 option right there. And then safety-wise, we either re-sign Jeremy Chin or we go and get safety Talanoa Hufanga. Again, another Adam Peters connection. And I think he's the number 2 safety available, only behind Javon Holland. Even though Javon Holland's coming off of a bad season, some people probably feel like Talanoa Hufanga is maybe safety number 1. But I think Javon Holland's going to be the one that ends up getting the huge bag, and Talanoa Hufanga will probably be a lot cheaper. And I already have like a bunch of just be on the lookout for more videos later, because shouts out to Pro Football Focus, they have this new thing. I didn't know that. I don't know how long they've had it, but if you pay for the extra subscription, they, just like Spot Track, has like market values and the predicted contracts for a lot of these guys. And Talanoa Hufanga is probably cheaper than y'all think, but be on the lookout for that. I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but I'll probably do like a dream case scenario free agency type of thing, or do my favorite players at each position type of thing. Who knows? I have so much content that I'm loading up for y'all. And then I'll discuss market value and how much these guys may demand in contracts, what their cap hits may potentially look like in a video like that. Not here. Then linebacker 1, why not take a cheap flyer on Dre Greenlaw? I think he's linebacker 1, arguably in free agency right now. Just like the offensive line class, this is a fairly weak linebacker class free agency wise. And then that's also another Adam Peters connection that helped draft him to the 49ers. Why not take a flyer on him as like a very athletic linebacker that is one of the best linebackers in the NFL when fully healthy? He just had that terrible injury, but then he returned and actually looked pretty good towards the end of last season, and then they just shut him down. It was like, it's not worth him getting hurt anymore. So, hey man, if the 49ers let him walk, let's go pick him up for sure. And then I also really want the defensive tackle from Cowboys, that Osa kid, but again, my point is we can't have them all, so we can't go and get the number 1 defensive tackle as well. There has to be sacrifices, and I'm willing to sacrifice that one. You'll see why when we get to this draft class. So again, we can't have the top player at every position in this free agency class. I know that if you combine cap space, Super Bowl contention, plus elite quarterback on a rookie deal, we are the number 1 free agency destination this year. But that doesn't mean that we're going to end up with the top player at every position. So if we get the best edge rusher and tackle, even though this is a very weak tackle class, like I said, then I'm assuming we'll probably get like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th best of other positions in free agency. But we'll see. And with our elite team building front office, plus our great developing coaching staff, plus a heavy free agency class, class that I just gave you in this mock free agency, that allows us to attack high ceilings in the draft, which now takes us to the draft. Round 1, 29th overall, I have us taking running back Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina. And I feel like his comp is literally 2003 Pro Bowl year Deuce McAllister. I have a couple of more comps I'm going to give you throughout this breakdown of them, but I feel like that's as accurate as it gets, man. He is insane of a prospect. Also, now that when I'm gonna do this offseason compared to other off seasons that I never did before, I'm also gonna give you like what their average rank is according to all of the like different draft sites that are anybody. Like there are so many different draft sites. Like you have, I could just, for example, real quick, going back to Omarion Hampton, he's ranked on Bleacher, DraftNet, Pro Football Focus, Draft Buzz, NFL.com, ESPN, MDDB, Draft Tech, Todd McShay, and the 33rd team. And overall, his average from all of those different draft sites is 40th overall. I have us taking him 29th overall, which seems realistic. His highest 10 and his lowest 54 out of all of those draft sites. So we're going to do that for every prospect in this video and every mock draft that I do pretty much from now on ever. That I'm doing this whole YouTube thing, you know what I'm saying? Which I hope is forever. But let's go ahead and dive into who he is, man. First of all, again, 40th overall prospect according to all of those draft sites put together, compiled together, so it's realistic that we can get him at 29th overall. That's why I'm saying that too, because I know a lot of people always scream that that's not realistic. There's no way that we get him. Right now, technically, a lot of people feel like it could be. Now, 73% of his yards came after contact this past season. That's only second behind the generational talent you could argue in Ashton Jeanty. He had over 1,000 rushing yards just after contact alone each of the last 2 seasons, with a bad quarterback situation, at least in 2024. Maybe not in 2023 with Drake May, but 2024. And then the offense in general was bad, even with Drake May in 2023, but especially after Drake May left just in this 2024 season. I mean, he was literally like the only offensive weapon, and he basically just said, well, I guess I'll just do it all myself. How about I go for 1,000 rushing yards, over 1,000 rushing yards after contact alone? He also ranked in the 97th percentile in yards after contact per attempt with 4.3. Insane. That's just after contact. So his after contact ability is insane. I mean, this guy would easily be running back 1 in this draft class if Ashton Jeanty didn't exist. I mean, it's crazy how much people are not talking about Omarion Hampton. It's honestly Ashton Jeanty 1, Omarion Hampton 2, and then there's like a big gap, and then everybody else in this running back class, in my opinion. And this is a very good running back class. Don't get me wrong. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying here. This is a very good, very deep running back class. I like Scatterbo. I like my dog, Travis Etienne from Georgia. I like a lot of these guys. But Omarion Hampton is that different to where it's Jeanty, Hampton, big gap, everybody else in a really good running back class. I mean, it's really that different. Luckily for us, though, the running back position still seems relatively devalued in today's NFL, that it's still a quarterback's league, so there's still a good chance that he may fall to 29th. And also, have y'all ever noticed how elite teams and elite talent always fall down to the draft where like the Ravens and the Chiefs are picking? Like, I think Omarion Hampton could basically be that for us. It's our turn to consistently compete for Super Bowls and then consequently pick late in drafts because of it, and then still have elite talents fall to our laps for absolutely no reason, like some of these other elite teams have been doing in the NFL for years now, most notably like the Chiefs and the Ravens, where just this elite talent falls to them for absolutely no reason. I mean, it's really amazing to me how much people do not talk about this guy. Like, what's there not to like? He has enough breakaway speed, not elite, but enough breakaway speed, which we don't have on this team at all right now. He would be our best breakaway speed running back already. He's not the fastest guy, but he's fast enough to like complete a 60-yard touchdown run where you don't have to worry about somebody coming tackling him from behind unless it's like a really, really fast guy. And he also has elite contact balance, as we've already discussed. That's his biggest positive, I would say, as far as his traits go. And I like Eckler and B-Rob through contact as well. Eckler making people miss, B-Rob running people over, but I like Hampton even more than both of them in both of those aspects. Also, he has great hands and receiving threat ability, so there's every down ability right there. I mean, he's like a true workhorse, 1,600 yards rushing, 400 yards receiving every year type of guy, immediately, year 1. Like, ridiculous stuff. And then the part that made me want him the most is that he can actually block very well already. We're not talking about a projection. We're talking about today. Immediately day 1, he's one of our, if not our best pass blocking running back that can pick up a blitzer or whatever. So he could be on the field all of the time, and we can trust him to keep Jaden Daniels healthy whenever he needs to. Even though he's such a force with the ball in his hands and such a threat that it's almost a waste of a play when he's not at least an option in the passing game. But he can block as well. But his ability to be a trustworthy blocker as a running back would make it nearly impossible to take him off the field. I mean, he would only, to me, be off the field when he's tired. That's it. Because what else can you ask from a running back? I mean, goal line situations, call Hampton's number. 1st and 10, Hampton. 2nd and 4, Hampton. 3rd and 15, Hampton. 4th and 1, Hampton. I mean, he would immediately step in and be our best running back day one. And honestly, in my opinion, he would be a top 10 running back in the NFL immediately as well. Especially in this offense that already has Jaden Daniels and then Cliff Kingsbury as your offensive coordinator. And I love B-Rob and Austin Eckler. But there's an argument to be made that running back may be our biggest need right now today before free agency and all of that type of stuff. Because, I mean, I would say offensive line is probably our biggest need only because protecting Jaden Daniels is a #1 priority for this team. But we honestly have enough solid guys to where this O-line could be cool enough right now before free agency and the draft to play with and go out there and win games, especially with Jaden Daniels' elite mobility and him having eyes in the back of his head. But running back, please help. I have a please help sign up right now. We need a guy that is liable to break for 40 yards any play, like how Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Saquon was doing to us this year. Saquon Barkley, all 3 games that we played him. Imagine how ugly of a situation defenses will be in if they have to dedicate an extra guy to the box to worry about Amari and Hampton, but then the quarterback is Jaden Daniels. So you literally can't do that. I mean, I've seen more than one person even say that he looks like a faster prime Ezekiel Elliott with their comps for him. I'm not going to necessarily go that far, but that's how a lot of draft analysts that I've seen when doing my research, that's what they compare Amari and Hampton to, a faster Ezekiel Elliott. I'm telling you right now, huge still 29th overall, but I've already explained to you why there's a chance that he could actually fall that far. Now moving on, round 2, 61st overall, I have us taking tight end Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. To me, he's a higher ceiling Jonnu Smith. And remember, Jonnu Smith, I don't know if a lot of y'all noticed, but he balled out this past year. Pro Football Focus had him ranked 5th out of 37 2024 tight ends in the NFL. 5th. And I think Harold Fannin has a higher ceiling to him than Jonnu Smith. And Harold Fannin, again, I'm going to give y'all this for every prospect. He's 62nd overall by all draft sites as like an average rank. His highest 22, but his lowest 144 according to one of those draft sites. I mean, this is an insanely deep tight end class. I feel like you got to at least, just like the running back class, very deep, you got to at least get one of them. You know what I'm saying? Running back and tight end. And this is a perfect match and perfect value for a guy that we can groom into basically being the Zach Ertz replacement, while Ben Sinnott is like our better blocking, more like a fullback inline tight end type of guy. Fannin is our mismatch nightmare, like a Zach Ertz in his prime type of mismatch. I think of basically David Njoku on his best days. You know what I'm saying? When he's at his best, that's what I project Harold Fannin to be. Or I also see a lot of people compare him to Isaiah Likely. And if you're going to comp him to Isaiah Likely, I feel like you got to say week 1 of the 2024 regular season Isaiah Likely. Like the debut of the regular season when it was the very first game between the Ravens and the Chiefs, I believe it was. That guy had 9 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown. And he almost had the game-winning touchdown if he was just 1 more inch towards inbounds. That's Harold Fannin Jr. in my opinion. And I think he would easily go in the first round of other tight end drafts, but maybe not last year because my Georgia Bulldog Brock Bowers was in it. But this draft is just loaded with tight end talent. Like a pick your poison, pick your type of tight end type of class. Where like literally every type of tight end that you can need, it's here in this class. And if it weren't for the existence of Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, and the fact that there are just so many other talented tight ends that you could just wait and get outside of the first round, I believe Harold Fannin will for sure be a first-round pick. He's definitely worthy of first-round pick. I think he definitely has first-round pick potential and talent to him. His acceleration, first of all, is crazy. He has great natural hands, which is probably the most important part for how we would utilize him. And he also has great yak ability as well. His only problem is that he doesn't project to well as far as like being a great blocker at the next level, because just simply because of his lack of weight at 230 pounds right now. But he is a very willing and aggressive blocker, and he does dominate defensive backs and linebackers a lot of the time. But just don't expect him to line up as like an inline tight end and shut down a great edge rusher from the other team on a consistent basis. But you can move block with him. You can bring him as a puller. He'll handle the guy with, as he gets that build up speed and some of that strength, converting speed to power, he can handle an edge rusher like that. But I mean, he's also also just super strong for his size. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do blocking wise at 230 pounds. He just needs to get into an NFL weight room and nutritional program. I think he could actually turn into a pretty good blocker. I mean, if he gains real mass and strength, watch out. He could actually become a true, serious dual threat tight end. But anyway, that's besides the point. We would be drafting him to be an elite receiving tight end. That would be his immediate responsibility. We can work on the blocking later. He's an elite jump ball target that knows how to contort his body any way that it takes to make a catch. He's one of the best jump ball guys in this entire draft, regardless of tight end, wide receiver, whatever. He also knows how to sell routes very well as well. So kind of like a Zach Ertz there, where like you'll be able to trust him to get open on third and gotta get it type of downs. Like we need this third down bad. He will be a dependable target that's usually open. And I know he usually played against low-level competition. He played at Bowling Green, so I understand why some of y'all may be apprehensive here. But as the only hope on an entire offense out of his entire team, the only bright spot on it, so defenses know to focus on him and stop him, he still found a way to ball out against top competition like Penn State and Texas A&M, where he had 282 yards combined between the both of those games. I mean, I feel like that's enough to show you that this guy can hang with the top talent. He just so happened to play at a low-level competition, playing against low-level competition most of the season. But when it was time to go against the dogs, Penn State and Texas A&M were one of the biggest budgets in NIL. I mean, recruiting 5 stars left and right. It doesn't necessarily work out on the field as a total team as far as chemistry goes, but you can't deny their talent. That guy still found a way to ball out. He's also he's a guy that has experience lining up everywhere, like even in the backfield at times. And one last stat to give you for him, this guy had a 0.82 wins above replacement average, which was even higher than 2 Brock Bowers seasons. I mean, Pro Football Focus even gave him a 96.3 receiving grade from last year. And I trust Cliff Kingsbury, if there's anybody in the NFL as an offensive mind, to figure out a way to put him in positions to succeed as much as possible, especially with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback. So Jaden Daniels to Harold Felton Jr., I can see both of them going to Pro Bowls consistently as like this elite duo where Terry McLaurin's also involved as well. It could be scary for, and then Amari and Hampton as your running back. Come on, man. Now moving on. Round 3, 79th overall pick, I have us taking wide receiver Tez Johnson out of Oregon. And I feel like, honestly, the best comp for him is Tyreek Hill if everything works out as a best case scenario. He definitely has Tyreek Hill potential. I'm just not going to go out there and say that he's guaranteed to be Tyreek Hill, because otherwise he would go in the first round. But don't forget that Tyreek Hill was drafted in the 5th round. Now, granted, character concerns played a role in that, though, but this guy has serious talent. And right now his average rank is 80th overall, which is 1 spot behind where we're drafting, which is why I think it's realistic that we could get him, but as high as a 45 and as low as a 96. But right now he's projected to run a 4.33 40 time. And to put it simply, this guy has pretty much top 10 most fun tape that you can watch out of all skill position players in this draft. When it comes to running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, you can maybe even throw quarterbacks in there. You could argue top 5 tape, like what to watch as far as fun goes. Like, it's one of those highlight tapes of film sessions that you'll literally be laughing and like replaying how many times he embarrasses defenders before and after he has the ball in his hands. I mean, he's just too quick and too fast. There's no way you can really keep up with this guy. The only reason he's projected to make it to the 3rd round is because he's just so small. But again, we have evidence that small receivers not only ball out at the NFL level, but most importantly, they can also stay generally healthy and durable, like a Devonta Smith has done for the Eagles, where he hasn't gained an ounce of weight. He hasn't gained a single pound since being drafted out of Alabama, and he's still available a lot of the time. I think he's been available even more than AJ Brown has been, from what I believe, what I remember. I could be wrong though, but I mean, not as bad as you think. And I feel like worst case scenario, this guy at the very least could come in and be a game-changing punt returner for us, especially if we don't bring back Jamison Crowder. Or even if we do bring back Jamison Crowder, this could be the guy that eventually dethrones Jamison Crowder as our franchise punt returner. You know, like sort of like how the Cowboys have this secret weapon in that Turpin kid. I think Tez Johnson could be somewhat similar to that. Maybe not to the same extent, but a far better receiver than Turpin is. And I also have us getting Amari Cooper as a free agent, as you saw earlier in the mock offseason. But say instead of Amari Cooper, if we somehow land like a T. Higgins or a Garrett Wilson that can play outside, then I think Tez Johnson will be your day one starting slot receiver immediately. Like day one, week one. And I've seen somebody that even comped him to being a more athletic, quicker, and faster Tank Dell. And I would take that any day. especially if he can be more durable than Tank Dell has been. Let's do it. Sign me up any day for that, man. So go and get you a difference maker in Tez Johnson to where he's giving opposing defenses and defensive coordinators headaches trying to game plan. What do we do about this guy? Because we don't have the athleticism to deal with him. He's going to be one of the quickest and fastest guys on the field every game, all of the time. So it's going to take scheme, not bodies, to stop this guy. And that means the defensive coordinator will have to get really creative there. But again, with all these other weapons and Jaden Daniels being your quarterback, how do you focus on stopping Tez Johnson when you still got to worry about Terry, Amari Hampton, and Harold Fannin Jr.? Come on now. It all comes together. And then Amari Cooper in there. Come on, bro. Now moving on. Round 5, 148th overall defensive tackle Darius Alexander. And now that I really think about it, us having an elite quarterback, especially on a rookie deal, makes all of this possible. That's why these mock drafts sound so good, because we're not worried about quarterback. We know we have a top 5 guy in a quarterback already. Now you just got to build around that. Insane. And that's why we're going to be huge free agency destinations. We're going to be, I think, the number 1 free agency destination in the offseason. So, but either way, 148th overall defensive tackle Darius Alexander out of Toledo. And really, just like Tez Johnson, if everything works out, best case scenario, he's Tyreek Hill. Same thing goes for Darius Alexander. If everything goes right, best case scenario, he's literally Jeffrey Simmons, in my opinion. Just a little raw right now. His average rank is 110th overall by all draft sites, but his high is 55, but his low is 184, which is why I think he could potentially make it to the 184th pick. But maybe this is you could argue this is my biggest reach out of any pick in this mock draft. I can admit it, you know what I'm saying? I'm not even trying to sit here and lie to y'all. I'm just like, I gotta talk about Darius Alexander in this draft, and I don't know where else to talk about him because I couldn't get rid of Tez Johnson. I couldn't get rid of Harold Fanning, and y'all already know, like, if y'all have been following me and subscribed to me for years, y'all already know one of the main reasons I do these mock drafts is because it gives me homework to watch more film or more guys, which I enjoy, but it's also to put y'all on to players that y'all may not have heard of yet. And I feel like this is a good time to go. Let's talk about Darius Alexander because I'm so excited about him. He was a dominant force at the Senior Bowl. We'll get there, but I feel like this guy ultimately will be our eventual replacement for Jonathan Allen and or Deron Payne if they're gone. Because I can see a future where people talk about like Darius Alexander, who we're talking about right now, and Johnny Newton being one of the best defensive tackle duos in the NFL within the next 2 years, at 2 to 3 years. As Johnny Newton develops, especially with his elite explosion and athleticism and ability to get to penetrate and get into the backfield, Darius Alexander is the perfect complement to him, especially with him being a dominant run defender with a lot of pass rush upside as well. Again, Jeffrey Simmons if everything plays out perfectly. And Darius, now let's talk about it, was one of the best performers in the entire Senior Bowl. I mean, athletic freak. He made Bruce Feldman's freak list last year. Like super duper high ceiling. Just pretty raw right now. That's the only problem. But Daniel Jeremiah even said that boy Darius Alexander has a Chris Jones body type to a T and has the same ceiling as well. That's coming from Daniel Jeremiah. Again, I comped him to Jeffrey Simmons. Daniel Jeremiah says this guy could potentially be the next Chris Jones. He has a very rare combination of size, explosiveness, and athleticism that doesn't come around often. Him and Johnny Newton would make for arguably the most athletic defensive tackle duo in the NFL at the very least. And I know he played against fairly low level of competition at Toledo, but he went to the Senior Bowl and showed out. And that's against some of the top talent in the draft, right? So he more than proved that he didn't just look that dominant on tape just because he was going against lesser competition most of the season. He was even voted the top defensive lineman at the Senior Bowl, which is a vote by all of the offensive linemen that participated in the practices. He was the scariest thing voted by the other offensive linemen at the Senior Bowl. That's how dominant this guy was. And then in the Senior Bowl game, he had a tackle for loss, he had another tackle for no gain, and then he had several pressures on the American team quarterbacks. Watch out. I'm telling you, that Senior Bowl may have taken his draft stock ultimately from round 5, where I was mocked to take him right here, to maybe even as high as round 2, sadly. I mean, we'll see how he tests at the combine. I'm pretty sure he's going to kill it because he's an athletic freak, but I'm hoping he somehow slips to the 5th round like he originally would have if he didn't go to the Senior Bowl and just tear it up. But right now, again, this is arguably my biggest reach, probably by far out of this entire mock draft, because the way he looked at that Senior Bowl, man, whoo-wee, man. Go do your research on some Darius Alexander. I mean, out of everybody I've talked about today, I feel like Darius Alexander is probably like my biggest put you on to this guy if you don't know yet. Because Amari Hampton's balling out. Tez Johnson, highlight tapes everywhere. And I feel like a lot of people have heard of Harold Fannin in a little bit, at least to some extent. I think Darius Alexander is like the perfect combination of maybe you haven't heard about him, but you better find out as quickly as possible. And whoever drafts him, you better watch out for this guy in the next year or two. I'm telling you right now. Now moving on. Round 6, 207th overall, I was taking offensive tackle Logan Brown out of Kansas. To me, keep it simple. He's a higher ceiling Cornelius Lucas. His average rank is 211th, which is behind our 207th pick. And he has a 148 high and then a low of 274 pick range wise. But the quote that I got from a scout was mid-round developmental tackle talent with plus physical tools. He flashes dominance in the run game, needs polish and pass protection, ideal fit in a zone scheme, ceiling of a quality NFL starter, floor of a reliable swing tackle at worst, and year one contributor with proper coaching. Medical history does need monitoring though. Unquote. Let's get to it. First of all, again, elite athlete that may be good enough to actually immediately fill in at starting right tackle while Andrew Wiley is starting at right guard while Cosme is out with the injury, trying to recover from his ACL surgery. But if he's not ready week 1, just start Cornelius Lucas. And then this guy will be ready to be our franchise right tackle by at the very latest 2026. I mean, he has quick right tackle playing ability, I think, right now. I think he's not that raw. I think you could actually start him at right tackle very soon. But he also has the athletic profile and ceiling to be a guy that you can maybe even develop into a franchise left tackle, which are hard to find. He could do that at some point. I truly believe that he has the talent, he has the athletic profile, the frame, all of the natural God-given ability. That just may take a little bit more time than he would be. I think, again, right tackle, he could play immediately and start year 1. I think left tackle may be a little bit later if you even want to do that at some point. But he can end up being a huge steal in the 6th round for us, plain and simple. Because no matter what, I'm confident in his ability to turn into a really good starter at either tackle positions within a year or two, or at the very least a really good backup swing tackle, an elite swing tackle, honestly. But he also comes in with a high enough floor to where he won't get Jaden killed out there if he has to start day 1. Even though with the talent that we have in the offensive line, and granted with another free agency, he probably wouldn't have to start. And that's not because he's not ready. That's just because we don't necessarily need him to just yet. And we've already talked about his pass protection potential. That's what we've been talking about this whole time. Like, as a pass protector, that's what we're talking about with ceiling. And can he play right tackle yet? Will he be able to play left tackle eventually? All of that type of stuff. But and we can go ahead and knock it out that he's probably best suited for a zone run scheme in the run game. But his run blocking is dominant. Day 1, already a dominant run blocker. If you really want to run the ball, especially to the outsides, you probably start this guy day 1, even as a 6th round pick. Is that crazy? I truly believe that the only reason he'll make it this far in the draft is because his medical history, and I'm afraid to say, but he is a type 1 diabetic that will require, first of all, a lot of trust in this draft process to even draft him, and then a lot of management once you draft him to make sure that he's on top of all of that. But I can't wait for his relative athletic score to come out, because I'm telling you, after the combine, it's going to be crazy. He's an elite athlete. I'm predicting it to be somewhere in the 9s, like a 9 point something for real. But his medical situation is why some teams probably don't even have him on their boards at all, which is why he'll make it to the 6th round. But this is a guy that easily has like 2nd round talent. I think the type 1 diabetes and a little bit of the raw as far as pass protection goes is why the only reason they'll make it to round 6, just to warn you. And then we have 2 7th round picks, starting with the first one, 238th overall. Levis taking edge linebacker hybrid Baron Sorrell out of Texas. And basically, he's more of like a pass rushing version of a Leo Chanel. That's probably his ceiling. His average rank is 218th overall. His high is 126, but his low is 296. It's kind of all over the place. He's a weird prospect. He's another Senior Bowl baller. I mean, this guy hooped at the Senior Bowl and really stood out and caught a lot of people's eyes, which is really good because he projects as like a high upside guy that may need some development and patience. But the fact that he looked that good amongst his fellow top talented peers shows me that he may not take too long to get out there and have an impact at all. He may be able to contribute year 1 as a force, especially off of the edge. Honestly, in Dan Quinn's eyes, if you're Dan Quinn looking from his point of view, you can look at this guy as like a bigger, stronger, but less overall athletic Micah Parsons. Nowhere near as quick, not even as explosive, not as fast or none of that, but definitely stronger. But that's the type of role that he would play. That type of edge rusher that can also play a little bit of off-ball linebacker. He can occasionally cover if you need him to, and he can also even stop the run. But most importantly, his main job, where he'll be most potent and most terrifying for opposing offenses as you sending them off the edge, man. I mean, he's just very raw though, but if y'all go look up that huge 4th down stop that he had against Texas A&M in a much-needed moment, you will not be able to help but think, hey man, just draft them, we'll figure it out from there. Like, shh, don't even bring them up in no more mock drafts, Rico. Go look at that 4th down stop he had against Texas A&M for Texas, man. It was ridiculous. And we literally needed a guy like this in 2024 to help us stop running backs from successfully running around the edge against us all year. This guy is an elite edge setter, really strong. I mean, this is literally who we needed when we were going against Saquon Barkley and all these guys that kept taking their runs to the outside. And I prefer, honestly, Frankie Louvu to rush the passer through the A-gaps anyway. So you let this guy be the linebacker that rushes off of the edge more so, and let Frankie Louvu rush up the middle. And I truly believe in Jordan McGee, who we drafted in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL draft last year. I believe he'll be like the super, can cover, can run stop, green dot on the helmet. Basically the guy that'll take over for Bobby Wagner when he eventually retires, probably after 2026, after we go ahead and win a Super Bowl this 2025 season. But then you'll have Louvu doing his thing, you know what I'm saying, running around, being a heat-seeking missile, crash out for us. Then you'll have Barron Sorrell terrorizing quarterbacks off the edge, but occasionally stopping the run, covering a little bit sometimes. And then you'll also have that boy Jordan McGee holding it down as your true off-ball Mike linebacker. I think that's a really, really good linebacker group moving into the future. And of course, I also mentioned in the free agency before this mock draft that we bring in Dre Greenlaw as well to throw him into the mix. I think that's an elite linebacker group right there, especially if Dre Greenlaw is healthy, if Jordan McGee becomes what I truly believe he can be as an absolute athletic freak, and also if this kid Barron Sorrell can turn into what I think he can be as well, elite linebacker group. And then lastly, round 7, 249th overall, I have us taking cornerback Gentry Williams out of Oklahoma. He's basically a high upside developmental corner. His average rank is 369th overall on all draft sites, a high of 295, which is still nearly 50 spots lower than what I have us getting them, and a low of 443. But I feel like after he goes to the combine and tests and everything like that, I think he'll rise up boards right now. But his tape isn't really that good. But he was a top 120 recruit in the 2022 high school class. And when ranking high school players, you're usually ranking them very high because it's based on like their athletic traits. So at 6 foot even, 190 pounds, he's projected to run a 4.29 40 time at the combine. That's gonna catch a lot of people's eyes. He also shows elite acceleration on top of the elite speed that he already has. So this guy is a mover. He has very smooth hips. He has great change of direction skills as well, but he's still very raw. He's a ball of clay that you can hope to mold into like a great corner someday if everything goes well. If all goes well, he develops, he takes into the coaching and everything. Our coaches do their job. But today, he's not playable anywhere on defense. But he could be a great special teams guy immediately with those athletic traits like my dog Tyler Owens is this year. But he also has injury concerns as well, with a complicated injury history, getting hurt quite a bit. And that's probably the biggest reason he may even just go undrafted. But if you're into elite athletes in the 7th round that you hope your coaches can get maybe even potentially 1st round talent and production out of eventually, then this is your guy. This is your raw ball of clay with the ridiculously high ceiling that you take a gamble on in the 7th round, maybe even as an undrafted free agent. So go and look up Gentry Williams. I'm telling you, when he gets to that combine, if he gets even invited to the combine and he shows out, I'm telling you, that's a guy that's going to rise up a lot of draft boards just simply because of how athletic he is. And he's projected to run a 4.29 40 time at 190 pounds. Watch out for this guy, man. But yeah, man, that's my mock off season. I mean, the main point of this video was a mock draft, but I felt like I had to include the free agency period so you understood why I went with why I chose who I chose in the mock draft and everything like that. But in this mock off season, not only do we fix defense and upgrade defense, but we supercharge the offense in the draft. We kill it in free agency defensively, but in the draft, we go and put a whole nother couple of gears in the offense, man. But at the same time, we're still getting high ceiling guys that will start for you within the next year or two and ball out under the elite coaching staff that we have. So we're building towards the future, and we're also building right now to go and compete for a Super Bowl immediately. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please don't fall from that like button, still from the subscription button, still from the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like, and of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about all of my draft picks and everything like that. Let me know how I did for my first mock draft of the season. Let me know if you would prefer all of my mock drafts from now on to include a free agency class beforehand so you can understand my strategy going into it and all of that. Let me know how you feel about completely critique, good and bad, everything that I discussed in this video. Let me know if some of my players are unrealistic reaches and there's no way we're going to get them. Let me know that. Let me hear every opinion that you have. And of course, also let me put me on to some players. Again, the goal of these mock drafts more than anything else is to put y'all on to some players that y'all may not necessarily know of while also fixing the Commander team. So let me know if there are any players that y'all think are sleepers in this draft that I also need to be aware of that maybe I should include in a future mock draft. I may get to the point where I'm doing like a mock draft a week just to catch up to the fact that I haven't been doing mock drafts since October. And also, of course, like I promised, I have the fun fact for the end of the video for you. Just to let you know, Washington acquired veteran safety Ken Houston from Houston in exchange for 5 players in 1973. He went on to play 8 seasons in the nation's capital and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 1986. Hey man, shouts out to Ken Houston, man. I like that fun fact right there. Can't wait to give y'all the next one on February 7th. Even though I more than likely will do another video February 6th, but I already gave you the February 6th fun fact and trivia, so I don't have another one of those for you today later on with my next video, but you'll get another one tomorrow. And again, I really appreciate y'all. Please let me know every opinion and thought that you have about this mock offseason, the free agency draft and everything. Let me know again, most importantly, if you want more mock drafts like that where it's free agency included as well. Let me know how y'all feel about all of that. And again, do not leave this video without leaving a like. I appreciate y'all. Be on the lookout for another video later on today. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.